All right, future pediatric nurses, welcome. We are about to dive into something that is, no joke, the absolute foundation for amazing pediatric care. I'm talking about growth and development. And listen, mastering this stuff isn't just about acing a test. It's about being able to connect with and truly care for every single kid that you'll meet. So let's jump right in.
So let's start with maybe the most important question in all of pediatrics. Why aren't children just little adults? It sounds so simple, right? But believe me, the answer to this one question changes everything. How you talk, how you assess, how you do even the simplest procedure. And this quote right here, it just nails it. A child's needs, we're talking physical, cognitive, emotional, the whole shebang, are completely tied to where they are developmentally. You've got to meet them on their level, not where you think they should be. Now this is where the rubber meets the road. Take starting an IV. With an infant, your whole world revolves around the caregiver, using distraction, soothing them, keeping them comfortable. But with a teenager, it's a completely different ballgame. You're explaining it directly to them, offering choices like numbing cream and answering their questions. Same task, two totally different approaches. This right here is the core of it all. This is our foundation. Everything we just talked about, treating kids based on their unique developmental stage, that's the why of pediatric nursing. So now, let's get into the how, the actual principles that guide how they grow.
So how do we even begin to wrap our heads around this journey from baby to teenager? Well, the cool thing is, while every child is one of a kind, their development isn't just random chaos. Nope, it actually follows some pretty predictable patterns, kind of like rules of the road. Let's take a look.
As you can see, there are a few core principles that guide all of this. And while it's always individualized, it follows a pattern. We're going to focus on the two big ones you see here, cephalocaudal and proximodistal. These are the physical rules of how a body gets built.
First up, we have cephalocaudal. I know it's a mouthful, but it just means head to tail. And it makes perfect sense when you think about it. A baby has to gain control of their head and neck first, way before they can control their trunk to sit up or their legs to walk. It literally starts at the top and works its way down.
And the second rule is proximodistal, which just means near to far. Development starts from the center of the body and moves outward. So a child gets control over their arms, that's a big, gross motor skill, long before they can master those tiny, delicate, fine motor skills like picking up a Cheerio with their fingers. It's a really logical, beautiful process.
Okay, so we've got the big picture principles down. Now, let's talk about the tool we use every single day to track this physical journey, the growth chart.
I know this might just look like a bunch of curvy lines on a page, but I'm telling you, growth charts are one of your most powerful tools. They let us track a child's physical growth over time and see how they're doing compared to other kids their age. This is how we catch potential problems early.
So what are we actually measuring here? Well, we focus on three key things. First, weight, and please always remember to zero that scale. Second is height, or length if they're still an infant. And third, and this is so important for babies, is head circumference. That measurement gives us a critical sneak peek into how their brain is growing.
And here is a number I want you to burn into your memory. By about 6 months of age, an infant's birth weight should typically double. This isn't just a fact for a test. Think of it as a vital sign for healthy development. It's a huge deal.
All right, we've charted the physical growth. Let's switch gears completely and talk about what's going on inside their heads. And to do that, we have to start with the giant of cognitive theory, Jean Piaget.
Piaget gave us this incredible roadmap for how a child's thinking evolves. And the key thing to get from this, the big idea, is that kids don't just know less than adults, they think in fundamentally completely different ways. Let's look at the very beginning of this journey and compare it to the very end.
And this just shows you what an amazing journey it is. A baby in the sensory motor stage is learning about the world entirely through their senses, touching, tasting, seeing. Their huge mental leap is figuring out object permanence. The idea that peekaboo is fun because they're learning that even if they can't see you, you still exist. Fast forward to the formal operational stage, and now you've got an adolescent who can think abstractly, who can come up with a hypothesis, and can even think about their own thinking. It's an unbelievable transformation.
But a child isn't just a growing body and a thinking brain, right? It's also about how they feel, how they connect with others, and their sense of right and wrong. For that, we need our last set of maps, the ones that guide us through psychosocial and moral development.
So Erikson looked at development through a social lens. His whole theory is that at each stage of our lives, we face a central social challenge or conflict.
And how we navigate that challenge helps build the foundation of our personality.
Now, this very first conflict, trust versus mistrust. Wow, this is so incredibly powerful for us as nurses. Think about it. When you consistently and reliably respond to a baby's needs, you feed them, you comfort them, you change their diaper, you are literally teaching them that the world is a safe and trustworthy place. The care you provide has a lifelong impact.
And finally, we have Lawrence Kohlberg. He gives us a way to understand how a child's sense of right and wrong actually grows and changes. He argued that our moral reasoning evolves over time, moving from a really self-centered view to a much more complex, principled one.
We can break this moral journey down into 3 big steps. First, a little kid is in the pre-conventional stage. Their main motivation is just to avoid getting in trouble. Then as they get older, they move into the conventional stage, where they follow rules because they want to be a good kid and keep things orderly. And finally, some people reach the post-conventional stage, where their actions are guided by their own deep internal ethical principles.
So there you have it. We've gone through the principles of physical growth, the charts we use to track it, and the psychological maps from Piaget, Erikson, and Kohlberg. These are your essential tools. And the final question, the one you're going to spend your entire amazing career answering, is this. Now that you have the maps, how are you going to read them at the bedside for each individual child you care for?